Tell you what, the next time I do a series on the minor prophets in the summer, I'm going to rename it. We're going to call it Spending the Summer in the Ring with Joe Frazier. If you're familiar with heavyweight boxer Smokin' Joe Frazier, he was known for working your body over, and then just at the right moment would come that uppercut to the chin. And that's how it feels like sometimes with these prophets. They do not mince words. Just kind of work us over a little bit. You know, it's a bit convicting. It's redirecting us to God. It's reminding us who the Creator is and that we are not the Creator ourselves. It's been very applicable this summer. Many of you have shared with us. It seems to apply with what's happening in our world and in our nation right now. So we get more of this time in the ring today, this time with Haggai. And to get some perspective, saw this metaphor this week. It would be difficult if you were to read the diary of Anne Frank without knowing something about Nazi Germany during World War II. In the same way, knowing the historical setting of these minor prophets helps us to understand their message. Again, this is one of those books, if you picked it up and just read it out of the blue, you would say, whoa, that's scary. I'm just going to close that, put it back there. But the prophet has quite a moment here in the spotlight because the Israelites are coming back. They were in exile. This was a time when the Babylonian Empire was conquering everywhere. And when they came through, they totally destroyed Jerusalem. And so the Israelites were out of there. There were a few stragglers left behind, almost like those movies right now that are in those TV shows that kind of show the future after a World War III or the zombies come or something. But it's that time when people are kind of living amongst devastation. So the Israelites come back, and the good news under the king named Cyrus is that he was nice to the people he ruled over. He actually funded the exiles to come back to Jerusalem. You can believe that, because he wanted an empire that was thriving. He wanted nations that he had taken over to become thriving once again, because that would make for a healthy and stronger empire. So he let the Israelites come back into Jerusalem. And then as we heard, a king named Darius the First came following Cyrus, and he continued to let the Jewish community rebuild. So that's kind of the background here of what's going on when Haggai comes, the prophet, with the word for those people, okay? So the exiles had come back, but as we're looking at this, it was not very glorious. They come back to a wrecked city, a shattered economy. And many who had not even gone with them to Babylon were just eking out a living, trying to rebuild farmland, trying to rebuild homes. So this land of milk and honey that we had heard about from historical in the Old Testament was now rubble and weeds. So one can only imagine when the prophet comes through the streets and began to say, you know, it's time to rebuild the temple. You've been here for a couple of years. You're rebuilding your farms and your homes, and that's all good. But the temple of God is totally trashed over here. And God is asking you to rebuild the temple. Now, you have to remember, these are human beings. So you might imagine their initial feelings in response, whether they mumbled under their breath or went inside their tents to each other and said, what is he talking about? We're barely getting by here. Like we have anything to build a temple. We have to get our own lives in order. Get away from us, Haggai. Take your temple talk elsewhere. And that's putting it nicely of what they might have said behind closed doors. But about a month later, they began to gather and slowly rebuild upon the foundation that was still there. And they worked hard. You can imagine the resources they're using back then. This is just human strength and vigor. And as they come back and do this work, they began to get disappointed and disgruntled. Any dis word that you can come up with is what they were feeling, right? What is this temple? This is nothing like it used to look like. Is this something to even continue? And they began to want to give up. And here's Haggai's answer. He says, "Take courage, Zerubbabel. Take courage, Joshua, son of Jehozadak, high priest. Take courage, all you people of the land. Work, for I am with you, says the Lord of hosts." That's one of those short commands, and you only see it once in the whole Bible where God just says, work. It's like very simple, very clear. Get back to it. Stop complaining. Stop sitting around. Get to work, right? But following that, the next statement is, "For I am with you." It's not like the prophet and God just says, "Good luck," and walked away. God is saying, "I'm with you. I'll give you the energy. I'll get you the resources. Don't give up." A farmer says this: "The hardest thing about milking cows is that they never stay milked." You have to keep doing it, right? The life of the farmer, getting up 4 a.m. to milk the cows. It's hard to keep going. The motivation for us as humans, we struggle. We want the easy way. We want somebody else to do it, right? And in Haggai, we see two groups of people. There's kind of this older generation who might remember the temple the way it used to be, who are probably saying, "We're never going to get back to that, so forget it." They're kind of stuck in nostalgia. They want things to be the way they used to be. And then they have this younger generation who never even saw the temple because they grew up in Babylon. And they are excited, but also have no idea what to expect, but also wondering, why do we even need to do this? But to hit back to the nostalgia, I remember a song from the 80s by Bruce Springsteen called "Glory Days." Sometimes we get stuck in glory days, and it saps our motivation because we think about the past and how things once were. And so Springsteen says this: "I had a friend, was a big baseball player back in high school. He could throw that speedball by you, make you look like a fool. Saw him the other night at the roadside bar. I was walking in, he was walking out. We went back inside, sat down, but all we kept talking about, glory days. Yeah, they'll pass you by. Glory days in the wink of a young girl's eye. Glory days." Every church, every temple, even every town has its historical times they look back on. And it's okay to be thankful about that. But sometimes when you're stuck in the glory days, you're no longer living in the present. You no longer see what God is calling you to do. You're looking for things that have gone by. And you're just maybe mad about it, or you're stuck in the past. At the end of the day, a church and ministry cannot be about nostalgia. It can't be about the way things were. God does not stay in the past. The Spirit moves forward in time ahead of us. The book of Philippians, Paul says, "Forgetting what is behind and reaching forward to what is ahead, I pursue as my goal the prize promised by God's heavenly call in Christ Jesus." And you might recall Jesus' words to the Pharisees. He says, "And no one puts new wine into old wineskins, otherwise the skins burst, the wine spills out, and the skins are ruined. But they that put new wine into fresh wineskins, both are preserved." So Jesus calls us to be open to new things, new ways of doing things, new styles of ministry, new outreach, new ways of growing this current movement of God. Ann Andraska and I had the blessing of going to our annual conference this summer. It's a meeting where all the clergy of this Michigan conference gather in one place. And we had a special guest speaker from Atlanta, the Reverend Jasmine Rose Smothers. And she has taken this church in Atlanta and done something new. In fact, it's so good, our leadership is going to read the book that she wrote about it. It's called Blank Slate. And yeah, we might go get some ice cream as we gather together. But in that book, she talks about the area she's in, downtown Atlanta. She says, we serve the unhoused and the underhoused. She says, love God with your heart, your mind, and your soul and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Well, she says, our neighbors can't wait anymore. We have folks who sleep on the steps of the church, who sleep behind the building. Tragic situations in miserable winter weather. Smothers, who grew up in Atlanta, she says, I'm putting my actions where my mouth is. They have a new project called 360 Peachtree Community Campus. It will sit on 2 acres of the church's property. It's going to be affordable housing, which will include 300 units, retail space, and 2 schools, all in one building. $180 million. Obviously, she worked with the local city, zoning officials, other agencies. This is a new wineskin. This is a great example of dreaming of something that's not there yet. What is God calling us to do? Haggai says, work, for I am with you. Don't worry about what other people are thinking. Stop thinking about what they're saying. Do the work that God has called you to do. This is the promise I made to you when you came out of Egypt, he says, and my spirit is present among you. Don't be afraid. Translate, dream big. It's hard, though. Sometimes our problems in our personal lives, at work, church, can feel bigger than God's promises. We look at our circumstances and we just kind of stare down at the ground and we can't look up because we get frozen and we think, it's not possible. It's too hard. There's no way out. Sometimes we just feel struggle in our work. Well, I found some interesting information. You know the old metaphor of, well, when I was a kid, we walked uphill in the snow to school every day, right? Bread bags over our feet, boots over the bread bags. That was me. Anyway, this is a list from 1852 found in the ruins of a London office building. If you ever feel overworked, you need to look at this to get some perspective. It says the following: this firm has reduced the hours of work. Therefore, the clerical staff will now only have to be present between 7 and 6. What did they do before? Clothing must be of a sober nature. The clerical staff will not disport themselves in bright colors, nor will they wear pantyhose unless in good repair. I don't know why that has to be there, but that's a observation. Overshoes and top coats may not be worn in the office, but neck scarves and headwear can be. It's cold inside. A stove is provided for the benefit of the staff. Each person should bring 4 pounds of coal each day to work. You want to be warm? Bring some coal. No talking is allowed during business hours. The craving for tobacco, wine, or spirits is a human weakness, and that's forbidden during work hours. Members of the clerical staff will provide their own pens. A new sharpener is available. Apply with the supervisor. I mean, I could go on. Things have changed, and that was in 1852. Our prophet Haggai is talking to people who are working with mud and rocks and straw and sticks and branches. And Haggai says, go and do. One of the promises, though, that we're here to receive and that we want to give away is that God always says, for I am with you. you are not alone. It's one of the greatest promises we can offer to receive ourselves and also offer to others. I am the same God that marched your ancestors out of Egypt. I am the same God who brought you through all of these nations that have come against you. My Spirit abides among you. Do not fear. Translate 2025. We are bombarded by the internet, by social media, advertisements, pop-ups, right? Even if you're trying to look at good things, pop-ups. Try to hit the X, and then you go to the pop-up because you missed the X. You know the story. Telling us what to do, what we need. We can't do anything without these products, these people, if we look this way. Calling us to be busy. Even the things that look good. A lot of good self-help ideas. But we're overwhelmed with these. Also, we seem to be addicted to looking young forever. People and organizations telling us that we need to sign up and hire them. Busy, busy, busy. It keeps our minds occupied. So much so that even with this information, people feel frozen because they don't know what choice to make. There's so many options, right? Back in the day, you had to know somebody to do something, to get a job, to go further in your line of work, to go after what you wanted. It was great to meet someone or to be referred by someone. Now the connections are at your fingertips, and it's almost overwhelming. So there may be moments, maybe weeks, maybe months, or even years where you just freeze up because you fall into survival mode. We retire mentally. Even though we're busy at work and busy every day, going to the store, and even doing good things, we go into a coast mode through life. Survival, coping. People don't know because we're doing stuff. We're there, but we're really not totally there. We're busy, not really aiming at anything, not sure which thing to pick. Mel Robbins was one of those people. In the midst of her frozenness in her life, she was overwhelmed. They were in debt as a family. She didn't know what to do. She had several careers that looked good, but none of them satisfying. And she came to a point where she barely even wanted to get out of bed. Until one morning, literally in bed, she discovered what she calls the 5-4-3-2-1 method. The 5-4-3-2-1 method. And she says it came from NASA, right? The countdown to a rocket launch, always the countdown, and then the rocket launch. So she began to say it to herself with everything throughout the day. And it worked for her. So she lay there in bed, and she didn't want to have to get up and tackle whatever it was, paying the bill, applying for a job, taking the kids to school, making lunch. She simply said, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and she would launch out of bed. And then the next task would come that she didn't feel like doing. But she began to play this kind of mental game. She called it the 5-second rule. You do things even if you don't want to do them. The simple act of counting down helped her overcome inertia and procrastination, whether it's that tough conversation with the spouse or the child or the coworker, whether it's making that dentist appointment or the doctor appointment, getting the car fixed. She began to apply this method to everything. Haggai is like that voice that comes to us. It says, get up. Go do. Time is short. Your time on earth is very short. But there are lives, starting with you, who are waiting to be changed. I read a story this week that I'd never heard before. Apparently there's a bridge in China that is tragically nicknamed Suicide Bridge. Over 1,000 people have died by jumping off of that very bridge. One man decided to do something about that. Chen Si gets up every weekend when he's not working, goes to the bridge, and sits there. He keeps watch for those who seem suicidal. He has a sign with him, with a red heart on the sign. His message is simple. You only have one life. Please give yourself a chance. The sun will shine brighter tomorrow. They say there has been a dramatic reduction in the number of suicides at the bridge because of this one man's actions. An ordinary man answering a call, making an extraordinary contribution. In Haggai's time, the rebuilding of the temple was a visible sign of coming back to God first. The Israelites' determination to rebuild together. Theologian John Holbert says, be careful. Haggai has been used by pastors to make it all about the building. The steeples, the stairs, the walls. He says, watch out. Holbert says, the next time we gaze at our own temples, our buildings, our houses of worship, we ought not to judge them based on their size or their beauty or the splendor of the pipe organs or the number of classrooms. Do the people inside show to a world that God is there? Do they shout the truth of freedom in the Spirit? Are they demonstrating by their lives the grace and mercy of God? Only on those bases can any such place of worship be judged and valued. The good news in the New Testament is that we are the temple now. It's not just about one building or one place. We are now God's temple. The Spirit is housed in us. I'm going to close this morning. I'm going to step for a moment inside Pastor Sam's territory here. One author says, perhaps those that came back from Babylon had a bit of PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. They had been through tragedy after tragedy. They had been taken away, their lives destroyed. They come back to this mess, this chaos. They're barely eking it out until Haggai comes to wake them up. But in that moment, they're frozen because they've had some difficult times. They're happy to be back, and they just want simple things: food, water. I want to build my own house again. I want to be in my own place, my own town. I just want to be over what happened. I don't want to think about that past. And maybe they're struggling with their energy levels, emotional issues. A generation that had grown up in Babylon, which was fancy and nice. Kids who had never saw or heard about a temple come back and they say, oh, we're going to build this temple. And the kids are watching the adults around them thinking, why? You don't look really happy about it. What's the reason? So God sends this prophet to say, it's okay. God is with you. We're going to do it step by step, stone by stone. As I read that this week, I thought about the world we're in right now. There may be a lot of people out there who are struggling. They believe in God, but they struggle with coming to church. They want to follow Christ, but they struggle with the way the church has been. What's happening in the church politically right now is scaring them. People are looking for a safe place, a sanctuary, where the people inside will welcome them without expectations, without judgments, simply with the message, God is with you. God is with us. We're not alone. And that is the miracle that people are looking for. It's a desire that's inside each human being, whether or not they have any Bible knowledge or church history, or maybe they have some horrible experiences from the church. So they're afraid to come back. Real PTSD, spiritually speaking. So Haggai comes and says, what about reaching new people? What about this place, this church right now? What will we do? Habitat for Humanity founder Millard Fuller says this. He has a book called The Theology of the Hammer, appropriately titled, and he says, our Christian faith mandates that we do more than just talk about faith and sing about love. We must put faith and love into action to make these things real, to make them come alive for people. Faith must be incarnated. It must become more than a verbal proclamation or an intellectual assent. 1 Peter says this, brick by brick, life by life, God is creating a kingdom, a spiritual house. That's you and I. We are the new temple. We are the building. I've said this before. It's a scary thought. If this place, this building, burned to the ground, God forbid, question, would Westside United Methodist Church still exist? Because you and I are Westside. Yes, this building has wonderful history. These walls speak of God's work. But this does not contain what God is doing. It's you and I. Here on Sundays and then during the week, we are the temple. So God says, take courage, for I am with you. No matter what is happening out there in the world, get to work. I have a lot to do with you and through you. Amen.